You ever have that feeling, that quiet, kind of unsettling sense that something's just not quite right in your relationship? It's not like there was a big fight or some huge dramatic moment. It's more like a subtle creeping distance that you just can't put your finger on. Well, let's get into it because that feeling, it's not just in your head. And understanding what's going on behind the scenes is really the only way to start closing that gap. I mean, you're living the same life side by side, right? You share the same space, sleep in the same bed, go through all the same daily motions. If anyone were to look in from the outside, they'd think, wow, everything looks totally normal. And yet, there's this space between you. It's like an invisible wall has just appeared. And that home you share suddenly feels huge and empty. You're right there, physically next to each other, but emotionally, you might as well be on different planets. It's a really lonely and confusing place to be, isn't it? And this kind of gives us a name for it. See, it's not some random thing you're experiencing. It's a real, recognized psychological pattern. Most relationships, they don't actually end with a big, sudden explosion. They end with a slow, quiet fade. So let's unpack what this pattern really looks like, because it's not just one thing. It's this gradual process. And you know what drives it? Something that sounds so simple: complacency. We just get comfortable. Life gets busy. And without even realizing it, we slowly stop putting in the effort. We stop nurturing the very connection that brought us together in the first place. No, seriously, think about it for a second. I'm not talking about the day-to-day logistics, who's picking up the kids or what should we watch on TV. I mean a real conversation about your dreams, your fears, something funny that happened at work. We just stop asking those questions because we think we already know the answers. We start to take our partner for granted, assuming that the connection will just kind of take care of itself. And that right there, that's when the fading starts. Every relationship starts with that amazing, deep, intimate connection. But over time, that can slip into just routine check-ins. How was your day? Fine. And then that can turn into what feels like a comfortable silence. And hey, silence can feel peaceful at first, but a lot of the time it's really just a way to avoid tough conversations. And before you know it, you wake up one day and realize that silence isn't comfortable at all anymore. It's a painful, echoing distance. Each one of these steps is a tiny little downgrade in intimacy. We always think the end of a relationship is going to have this big climax, right? This huge dramatic moment. But the real climax, the actual point of no return for so many couples is something much, much quieter. 90%. Just let that number sink in for a minute. It is a huge number. And it's so shocking because it completely goes against everything we see in movies and TV about how love is supposed to end. That's right. The vast majority don't end with doors slamming and people yelling. They don't end with one big catastrophic event where you can point and say that's where it all fell apart. The truth is way more subtle than that. They end when the effort just stops, when you reach out for connection and get nothing back. They end when you stop fighting for each other, because maybe, without even saying it out loud, you've both decided that it's just too hard to keep trying. And that silence, it's not empty. It's heavy. It's full of all the words you never said. Okay, so if this isn't a breakup in the way we usually think about it, then what is it? Well, psychology actually has a name for this slow decay, a diagnosis for this quiet fading that so many of us go through. It's called the quiet erosion of intimacy. The perfect way to think about it is like water's slowly wearing away at a rock. It's not one big wave. It's the result of thousands and thousands of tiny little moments. It's the inside jokes you don't share anymore, the casual touches that disappear, the nights you spend scrolling on your phones instead of talking to each other. So think of it like this. A breakup is an event. It's loud, it's obvious, you can't miss it. But this erosion, it's a process. It's silent, it's subtle, and it happens right under your nose. And that's what makes it so dangerous. You often don't see how bad the damage is until the whole foundation of the relationship is already starting to crumble. Now, I know listening to all of this can feel, well, pretty heavy, but there's power in understanding it. Because once you can actually name the problem, the complacency, the quiet erosion, you find yourself at a crossroads. You can finally make a conscious choice instead of just unconsciously drifting further and further apart. So if you've been having that nagging feeling, that unexplainable sense that something is just off between you two, this is very likely what's going on. It is not in your head. It's the quiet erosion at work. And now, finally, you have a name for it. This is the question you have to ask yourself, and you got to be honest without any judgment. Are you two truly connected partners? Or have you just gotten really comfortable in the quiet, slowly drifting apart without even realizing it's happening? An honest answer here isn't about blame. It's about figuring out where you are right now. It's your starting point. And here is the most important part of this whole thing. Awareness is everything. Just noticing the distance, just seeing it and acknowledging it without pointing fingers, that is the first and most powerful step you can take. This doesn't have to be the end. In fact, seeing the gap can be the beginning of finding your way back to each other. So what do? You start a conversation. Not a fight about who's right or wrong, but a real talk about how you feel. Maybe you try saying something like, hey, I feel like there's been some distance between us lately, and I miss you. It might be one of the scariest, most vulnerable things you've ever done, but it's the only way to start building a bridge across that silence.